Hello, everybody. Welcome. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for waiting so patiently as we kind of got everything set and ready to go. Welcome to Haws's masterclass in the ANSI ISEA Z358.1-2014 R2020 codes for compliance with shower and eye wash compliance and emergency equipment. Thank you very much for being here. I greatly appreciate it. I'll give you lots of great information today. We'll share lots of useful tools with you, and I'll try to make it entertaining on the way. Now, real quick, before we really dive into everything, I want to remind you to post questions anytime during the presentation. Use that question section on the control panel, submit those. I've got my friend on the back end, Kristen, who is monitoring the chat, monitoring the questions. She's going to pick some of the questions for the end for the Q&A, and that I'll answer. Any that we don't get to, we will send out via a fully organized and answered spreadsheet for you after the webinar if we don't get to all of them, and we won't. There are so many questions that get submitted later. I'll take my time, I'll dive into them, and I'll really get you the answer that you deserve for those. And we'll send out an Excel spreadsheet for that, okay? So ask them at any time, and Kristen will handle some of the more basic ones that pop into the chat and stuff like that. So this webinar is being recorded. So we will send a follow-up with you or to you within 24 or 48 hours after the presentation. We'll finish all the presentation materials, get everything put together, and we'll launch an email out to you with a bunch of tools, including a link to the on-demand recording. Poll questions, we're going to launch those throughout the presentation. We greatly appreciate your participation in those. Those are hugely helpful to us here at Haws. We want to continue to improve this product, make it better for you, make sure we're answering all of your questions, and that this is fruitful and you know, a good product for you. So please answer those poll questions. We greatly appreciate it. And then there will be a survey, a follow-up survey afterwards. Just for your participation, I'll send you a $5 Starbucks gift card, coffee for you on me. My name is Justin Dunn. I'm the Senior Field Marketing Specialist here at Haws. I handle a lot here at Haws, from surveys and inspections to ANSI compliance, ADA compliance, and all of that. So if you're seeing us at a trade show, it's usually me in the booth that you're saying hi to, along with some of my amigos and amigas. Today, we are going to cover what the ANSI ISEA Z358.1-2014 Revision 2020 standard covers, the significant requirements of that standard, and how to test for those requirements so that you understand what's required and you understand how to measure that in your facility and ensure compliance. We're going to go over some best practices for emergency equipment, stuff we have learned over a long career of working with emergency equipment since the 1950s. We've been providing eye washes and safety showers. We're going to provide you with resources for achieving that compliance. We don't want to leave you and tell you everything that could be potentially wrong in your facility and not putting any tools in your hand to help to improve that. And then we'll end with the Q&A and a quick closing statement from yours truly. Now let's get into it. So what is the ANSI ISEA Z358.1-2014 Revision 2020 standard? Well, we'll get into that right after our first poll question. I want to go ahead and launch one of those. Kristen, if you would, please, and then we'll dig right into it.
Hey everybody, yeah, so we've got a quick question here, and the question is, which best describes your role in choosing showers and eye face washes? If you could just go ahead and answer that, we'll keep this open for a second, and then we're going to move on with the presentation.
Thank you everybody, really for participating in those. We greatly appreciate it. It really does help us. Now, who's OSHA? Now, and how is this important with OSHA? How does this work with OSHA's standard, right? OSHA is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Most should know that. Now, OSHA's standard is 29 CFR 1910.151C. It's under medical services and first aid, and it gives us this paragraph. This is it. This is all that it says in there. It says, where the eyes or body of any person may be exposed to injurious corrosive materials, suitable facilities for quick drenching or flushing of the eyes and body shall be provided within the work area for immediate emergency use. That doesn't tell us that a whole lot. That doesn't give us a whole lot of information there, right? We need more for compliance, and we need more for our employees. We need to know, where does it go, how is it supposed to function, and so on. So that's what the ISEA ANSI standard does for us, okay? Now, on top of that, adhering to the Z358.1 and its requirements helps reduce injuries and fatalities. Your likelihood of surviving a corrosive or harmful substance on your body and that exposure is going to increase dramatically. The number of hospital days that you're going to need, the more likelihood that you're going to return to work in good condition or better condition than you would be if you hadn't received emergency equipment. That's what this is accomplishing. It's lowering that general workplace risk. It's lowering lost time and money for the employee and for the employer, right? If I love working here at Haws, I guarantee you, if I was working and I was promised a certain level of safety at work and I was exposed head to toe in corrosive materials, there's going to be legal ramifications later. Now, companies, they don't want that. They don't want an extended legal battle. They want their employee, I hope they want their employee to get the proper first aid that they need and come out of this on top or in much better situation than they would have been without it, right? And that's what this does. It helps cut that litigation. It helps ensure the employees getting what they need and so on. So now OSHA stepped up enforcement. On August 1st, 2016, OSHA fines increased for the first time in a long, long time, since 1990. And it went up by 80%, which is a huge margin. And it was kind of a scary number when we all kind of found out, and they jumped up, and OSHA fines were suddenly scary and then scarier. Effective January 2nd, 2018, we're now adjusting year over year by 2% to adjust for inflation. So with that, just to give you a quick idea of the array of different fines that you can see from non-compliance with 29 CFR and ANSI Z358.1, right? Because what OSHA is saying is, you have to comply with our standard 29 CFR 1910.151C, but to do that, look at ANSI Z358.1. And if you're not, and OSHA has to wag their finger at you more than once, you can see some significant penalties. And that's what this is. ANSI Z358.1 and adherence to it it's insurance. It's what it is for your company and for your employee, and it ensures we avoid nasty fines like this. This is all public information, by the way. You can go find this online if you're interested in more numbers and these types of situations. That brings us to poll question number 2. Kristen, if you would, please.
All right. So what do you think the average OSHA fine is? Just select one of these. $0 to $1,000, $1,000 to $10,000, $11,000 to $25,000, or $26,000 to $100,000. Just going to go ahead and let you answer that real quick. We're going to share this one. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share this. So, Justin, here are their answers. What do you think the average OSHA fine is? 3% thought 0 to 1,000, 33% thought 1,000 to 10,000, 44% 11,000 to 25,000, and 20% thought 26,000 to 100,000.
That's probably pretty accurate, honestly. That bigger chunk, you're honestly, you're probably going to get, say, in the tens of thousands in a fine if you're just didn't have emergency equipment, and then a smaller chance that you're going to get that monster, and that usually comes from willful or repeated violations, which are two of the more serious violations that you can get. Now, the standard itself was written by the ISEA, that's the International Safety Equipment Association. And again, OSHA references the Z358.1 standard during their violation reporting. And that's how those really work together. Now, I think that was my Siri. I think it was my watch going off there, if you heard that. Now, the standard itself was first published in 1981. That's when we first got our very first revision. And then in 1990, 98, 2004, 2009, and 2014, we got additional revisions. 2020 being the one we're looking at today. In the last two versions, we got some pretty important updates. One, in 2009, we finally got a temperature range for water delivery. Before, it just kind of said, it was very vague. It didn't give us actual numbers. Now we have a very clear number for what that temperature range is, and I'll explain that. Simultaneous use requirements, IWASH testing requirements, which is huge. 2014, a lot of measurements and adjustments that were aimed at manufacturers, and Haws was well ahead of the curve there. No changes necessary, but that really helped to ensure some further standardization of emergency equipment, because you get some familiarity with IWASHs and safety showers, and you don't want to go to one that's wildly different and not know and have to investigate how to use it. So these really helped with that a lot. Now we'll get into the significant requirements of the standard, and I'll explain quickly how to test each and every one. The first thing we need to be concerned with is testing, right? And what is required is a weekly minimum performance requirement test. Now, on a combination unit, like you see here in the photo, these are some of our reps in our training room here at Haws. We've got every flavor up here in our facility, and we like to do training in there and things of that sort. Now, what's required is that if there's an IWASH or a face wash, you activate the head of the device and you ensure there's flow of water quickly, and you allow that to run long enough to clear out the dead leg portion of the supply line, which may be harboring bacteria, debris, and other things that we have to get cleared out of there, okay? Now, if there's a shower, we got to do the same thing. Get a test kit. I'll show you what one of those look like. And you'll want a shower sock in place. You're going to activate the shower with the IWASH or face wash on. You have to run them simultaneously and clear out that dead leg. Get it running and get all that bacteria and nasty stuff out. Now, on portable equipment, self-contained, like a tank or a pressurized vessel, which is very common for IWASH equipment, you find them on construction sites and all over the place. All that is required is a visual inspection. If it's a tank, remove the dust cover, the lid, peek in, make sure the water's at the fill line and you don't see any nasty growth or debris in there, and then close it back up. On the pressurized vessels, give it a wiggle, make sure there's some water, there's actually water in there, and that it's nice and heavy. But check the pressure gauge on the front of the vessel to ensure that it is charged to the manufacturer's recommended PSI. And that's how you know that those are charged, they're ready to go, and they're set up via per manufacturer's requirements. Now, I know you're asking yourself, but Justin, what happens if I don't test? And that's a really great question, guys. This is what happens. This is some of the fun, exciting colored water and that you can get coming out of the emergency equipment. You're going to get, I call this one on the left, the chocolate wedding fountain. I think you've got concentrated evil up there in the top left. Gatorade, coffee, you've got every flavor coming out of these things. And if you use it, a higher potential that you're going to have an exciting new lung disease on the way to the hospital. Okay, this is obviously probably bacteria rich and is not going to make your first aid experience any better. Okay, so make sure we're clearing out those dead legs. Now, on an annual inspection, once a year, we have to go to each piece of equipment and we have to test it head to toe, which is what I'm about to cover with you. Okay, I'm going to share this checklist out with you via email later, so you'll have a full breakdown of the requirements. And this is, I mean, I save it, print it, use it. This is a great little checklist. But I'll make sure to share that with you. But once a year, we have to test head to toe on each piece of equipment. I'll walk you through that right after poll question number 3. Kristen?
All right, yeah, so poll number 3, what are you likely to do after today's webinar? Check all that apply. Do not answer if the question does not apply. So those answers are either do a full test using the ANSI checklist Haws provides, contact Haws for more info on ANSI, educate others, order product to become compliant, or specify the right type of equipment. I'm going to give you another quick minute there to answer that, and then I'm going to go ahead and close it down. All right, Justin.
Here we go. So moving on, this is what you're going to need to get that annual inspection done. The tools are simple. We have a nice, neat little kit here. It's the 9011, but that's what it's going to look like. Most manufacturers have some version of this. And the tools here are very important, okay? You're going to need a tape measure, pretty standard, any type of tape measure. You're going to need an eye wash gauge. This was designed by the ANSI Z358.1 standard. I'll show you a little diagram of it later. And I'll show you how to use all this as well. But we're going to need that eye wash gauge. It's based on average human anthropometrics. Lets us know that the eye wash is usable or eye face wash is usable. You need a 5-gallon bucket with a 2-gallon water line marked. I'll explain that later as well. Shower sock and pole, because they call it a drenched shower for a reason. And if you don't want soggy loafers, you're going to want that in place. Thermometer, because we need to check the temperature, and an ANSI Z358.1 checklist, which I am sharing with you just after this. Now, to start, the equipment has to be accessible within 10 seconds or 55 feet. 10 seconds is difficult to gauge for us as a distance, right? We're all built differently. We all move at a different pace, cadence, etc., depending on age, size, athleticism, so many different factors there. But 10 seconds is a specific amount of time that was added to this based on exposure and the likelihood that you're going to reach the equipment in a time that is going to be meaningful for first aid. Okay, there's only a certain amount of time before your skin, your eyes, etc., are going to be damaged to a point that is perhaps beyond repair. Now, 10 seconds is not a long amount of time. It's going to feel like a long amount of time from exposure to you getting there. So we suggest as close as possible to the hazard. You want it immediately adjacent if you can, or if it's safe to do so. The 55 feet just gives us a solid measurable distance that we can ensure from hazard to equipment, it's within that range. It also has to be free of obstruction. I've got some great examples over here on the right for you. Some of these captured by yours truly, and some from a magical place on Reddit called OSHA Reddit. And you can go in there and discover wonderful examples of non-compliance for yourself. Now, this could mean tool carts, this could mean trash cans. I think those are mouse traps. And it's very clear in the top right hand there, if you didn't have very good use of your eyes, you don't want to be digging around in that bowl trying to find the paddle. So no obstructions. And that's from the hazard to the equipment. You can have turns and corners between and stuff. It doesn't have to be a straight line, although that's ideal. Okay, but it does, that whole path has to be free of obstruction. Now the equipment has to be located on the same level as the hazard. Again, we are probably panicking. We are being damaged actively by whatever we've been exposed to, and we need to get it off quickly. and we may not have very good use of our eyes. So including stairs, containment berms, and things like that between the hazard and the emergency equipment is just setting up an obstacle course, and we don't need to do that. So watch out for changes in level. There is an exception to this, a single exception to this that I'll share with you a little bit later. Now the equipment has to be well lit, easily identifiable with highly visible signage. Otherwise, you're going to get these examples here on the right. If you can imagine you're working outside, you've been exposed to something really nasty, and you have to track these down from a distance, 55 feet, maybe less. These blending in pretty well with their environment, and there's no signage saying right here, this is where you want to run. This is where the equipment's at, you know, and again, you may not have great use of your eyes, it may be blurry, and so on, and being able to navigate to this equipment quickly is so important. So highly visible signage and well lit. The equipment also has to deliver a full 15 minutes of water. This is standard bare minimum across all safety data sheets, which is where you find that information, okay? It'll tell you 15 minutes, rinse your eyes, 15 minutes, rinse your skin off. That's a combination unit, just like you see there on the right. Now, that 15 minutes, that's hard to test. That's difficult. I really highly suggest in your facilities, checking the size of your supply tank, checking the size of your supply lines, and ensuring that it is fully capable of running for 15 minutes. Because if you're in a hospital and you're in a clean room, you can't just let 15 minutes of water, 360 something gallons pour onto the floor just anywhere, right? So ensuring that if you can capture that, if you have a drain nearby, run it. You got to do it once a year. Otherwise, investigate your supply and ensure that it's capable of that 15 minutes. Now, outlets have to be protected from airborne contaminants. All that means is we have to have dust covers in place. Otherwise, we're going to get the above example. You're going to get debris, you're going to get buildup, you're going to get lots of stuff that is going to make the equipment work quite poorly in a first aid emergency. Now, the dust covers also have to be self-removing. So on activation of that paddle that you see there, the equipment has to spring to life and remove the dust cover all on its own. Okay, now the paddle can also be the dust cover removal device. You'll see what are called clamshell dust covers that'll flip up as you push the paddle, but it has to be all by itself, self-removing. Okay, if you have to take a separate action to grab it, non-compliant. Now I'm going to show you an example of my my coworker here. That's McDean. That water is not tepid. And you can see him after he activates the shower go, woo, because that is cold. But that equipment has to go, you'll see as he activates it, he's hitting the paddle, he's pulling the pull rod, it's going off to on in 1 second or less, very quickly, okay? You can't have a further delay in activation or an additional time added there. It has to be quick. He also has to be usable without the use of the operator's hands. If you have stay open valves in place, those are a big issue. We have to get those uninstalled, and you need stay open valves in place. And I'll give you an example here. But there is a misconception out there too, that the standard itself says that you have to activate equipment in one motion. That is not the case. You can take multiple steps, but it all has to be done in under 1 second, and that is totally compliant. Now, just to give you some examples of that, those self-closing valves, just to watch out for these. You'll see versions of these valves, like you see here in the center. They'll be spring-loaded. They'll have a chain on it. There is a version that has a chain that's like has 2 chains. One's a pull, and then the other one's a pull, and it kind of is a lever action on the valve. That's fine. A pull rod's ideal. But watch out for these springs. Those have to be removed, and you need a stay open valve in place. Because I can rub my belly and pat my head at the same time, but I can't activate an eye wash, activate a shower, hold my eyes open, remove my clothes, and deal with the emergency that I'm having all at the same time. So very important. The other one is sneakier. In your facilities, watch out for the example on the far right. okay? This isn't, well, the valve itself is non-compliant. It's not a stay open valve, but that's not what I'm getting at. The eye wash heads themselves are pointed at the wall. Now, say that was a stay open valve and I pressed it. I can't just let that go and easily use it without my hands on the device. I have to grab that, hold it, and point it at my face. That's non-compliant, okay? We have to be able to activate it, fully let it go, and then it is compliant, and it has to run indefinitely until we manually turn it off. I forget the fact that it's like 6 feet off the ground. That's also an issue, but watch out for those self-closing valves. Now, eye washes have to provide 0.4 gallons per minute. Eye face washes, 3 gallons per minute as a minimum, and drench showers, 20 gallons per minute as a minimum, okay? Watch out for your supply lines. We do a survey program. I'll talk about it briefly at the end here, but we're out there, we're surveying equipment, we're trying to hunt down non-compliance to help folks and to bring you up to compliance. And I don't know how frequently I have found combination units with a half-inch supply line, and it's just starving for water. These are bare minimums. Each manufacturer has a certain GPM that's required to plumb to it, and PSI. I'm happy to say that Haws is one of the absolute, if not the absolute lowest. We try to use it as intelligently as possible, but watch out for starvation. I'll show you what that looks like. And the opposite of starvation. Watch out for controlled flow being at a velocity that's injurious to the user. That can be both the shower and the eye wash or eye face wash, okay? As you see here, this is a comfortable flow. We're fully hitting the victim's body. It has a comfortable flow for the eye face wash. What we want to avoid is this, okay? Too much and too little, okay? Now on the left, we've got way too much water here. It's not being controlled correctly, and that is going to rinse the back of your skull out. That is going to hurt so badly when you put your face into that. I can't even imagine. And it's already an uncomfortable situation. You've been exposed to something. You might be in pain, and you want us to put our face in that. So be careful. We have to dial that back when we have to fix it. Now, too little flow, we don't have enough water. Pick your favorite eye. It's going to be a worst case scenario. Okay, we get this a lot with that bullhorn style eye wash. When you're splitting the water path like that, there can be some issues instead of a single head design. So as you're testing, watch out for that uneven flow rate. Make sure you're getting enough water to your equipment and ensuring compliance. There's that diagram I talked about. ANSI ISEA gave us this. They designed this. This gauge is based on average human anthropometrics. Okay, you can get one of these from any manufacturer. They look different. This is ours. It's a nice little pocket-sized gauge. What the water flow has to do is it has to meet the eye streams at 8 inches or lower from the top of the head of the device. So you can see we're measuring up, we're starting at 8 inches with the gauge and slowly lowering that gauge until it aligns with the eye wash or eye face wash. That's compliant. That's ensuring, because this gauge is based on average human anthropometrics. All of us have our eyes in basically the same place, unless you're built like Sloth from the Goonies. Then that gauge is telling us, and I'll give you an above view here. It's meeting that gauge and it's telling us there is enough water here and this is usable. This is going to meet your eyes and it's going to flush the face and eyes properly. Okay, so start at 8 inches, slowly lower it all the way down to 0 if it aligns with gauge guidelines and it's compliant, and it has to fill those eye circles with water. Okay, that's what you're looking for. Now the flow pattern itself, the top of the water pattern has to be 33 to 53 inches from the floor. This is very easy to measure. Just take your tape measure, measure from the floor line to the top of the water. This ensures we're not bending over, stooping too low to utilize the equipment, and we're not like standing on our tippy toes to align our eyes with the equipment. It's well within an easily usable distance. It also helps control uncontrolled or injurious flows too, and makes that non-compliant on as well. Now the heads of the device also have to be free of obstruction by 6 inches around the heads of the device. So if you have a 2-headed device like you see on the right, you're measuring from those heads 6 inches in diameter around the heads, okay? On a single head device, like you see on the left, like the Axion, you're measuring from that head in a circle. It's nicely contained in the bowl. So ensure on the 2-headed devices, 4-headed devices, there's so many different types out there. But as you're measuring around those heads, ensure that you don't have obstructions near that equipment either, okay? Now to test the shower, you're gonna need a couple things, okay? Again, 5-gallon bucket with 2-gallon water line marked, because we don't, you know, we're not capturing a full 15 minutes of water here. We're doing exactly what a nurse would do in the hospital, okay? He or she is going to put their fingers on your wrist, or sometimes they measure it otherwise, but they're gonna count for 10 seconds, or maybe less, and they're gonna do the math in their head, right? We're doing something similar, okay? We're gonna test for 6 seconds, okay? You want that shower sock and pull over the shower head, running down into the bucket, and you want a thermometer so we can test the temperature just sitting in the bottom of the bucket, okay? So place the thermometer in the bottom of the bucket, place the shower sock around the shower head, run the bottom into the bucket, activate the eye wash or eye face wash if there's one present, because we have to have that running while we test the shower. This is really important, okay? Because it's going to reveal a very sneaky compliance issue that I'll explain here in a moment. Now activate the shower for 6 seconds. Do your 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippis. Get up to 6, immediately deactivate the shower, and check that the 2-gallon water level mark is met on the bucket, okay? Now 2 gallons and 6 seconds times 10, okay? We have 20 gallons, which is the bare minimum for the shower, and 60 seconds, which is a full minute. So we know that it's hitting the bare minimum of 20 GPM. That's how we're testing the shower. Now, as you activate that shower, watch the eye wash or eye face wash. The shower oftentimes starves the eye wash or eye face wash, and you'll see the flow to it completely disappear, okay? This means you need retrofits, you need flow controls in place. Most facilities are not finding this because it's messy. Employees don't want to test it. They don't want to activate the shower and deal with having to go dump the water, and they think it's a pain. But if you don't, you're not going to find that quite sneaky compliance issue, okay? Which brings us to poll question number 4. Kristen, if you would.
All right, so quick poll question. Is your facility experiencing a shortage in maintenance staff? Just yes or not at this time? I'm gonna give it a few seconds here. All right, closing that poll down.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, moving on. Now the shower flow pattern. What we're testing here is for a 20 inches wide at 60 inches above the floor. That's what we want our flow pattern to meet, okay? Now that's based on average human anthropometrics. That's shoulder to shoulder at an average height, okay? The issue is what you see on the right, okay? There's not enough water. There's damage to the shower head. The shower head is obstructed. There's so many different things that can go wrong there. We want to ensure the flow pattern is 20 inches wide, 60 inches above the floor. It's going to completely envelop the user. And I want you to pay attention to this. I showed you the Haws shower head earlier. Check the footprint of that shower. It's not required in the Z358.1 standard yet. I'm a huge advocate for this because you're going to see something that I refer to as the donut effect. Okay, it's an easy way to remember it. The donut effect happens when you have a shower head like you see here in the photo. Instead of a centralized nozzle that is evenly distributing the water with intelligent engineering, you're using the shower belly. Now, what's happening is the water's coming through, it's hitting a plate, it's dispersing the water across that bell, and then the bell is forcing the water down, and it makes a donut around the user instead of on the user, okay? So watch out for that. Again, not required, but I can't tell you how many showers I've activated in my lifetime now. Watch out, it's very sneaky, and it's a big issue that I hope is taken more seriously in the future. Also, the center of the column of water has to be clear of obstruction by 16 inches from the center, just to ensure that there's nothing obstructing the area you can easily walk into. Now the shower head. This is my buddy Bill. He's measuring across the flow pattern, ensuring it's meeting that 20 inches wide at 60 inches above the floor, just using a tape measure. That's all you're doing. Now I understand that you can't let just a shower rip in every single portion of your facility. So if you have your 20 gallons is being met on your bucket, there's no damage to the shower head, and you can feel like a really good healthy flow of water underneath the shower sock, you're probably okay. This can be difficult to test based on the area where you're testing it, but we have a lot of evidence if we're using the shower sock that can point to a healthy flow, or if you could just quickly turn it off and on. 20 inches wide at 60 inches is not difficult to gauge, even just with your eyes. Now the shower head itself, this is important for the flow. It has to be 82 to 96 inches from the floor. If it's at 82 inches, it's good. If it's at 96, it's good. If it's above or below, this impacts the flow pattern. If it's too low, it's too narrow. If it's too high, it's too wide. It's not going to hit the user, especially if we're experiencing the donut effect. So watch out for that. But we're just measuring. We're measuring to the outlet of water. So don't measure to the bell. Measure to the point where the water is coming out of the shower head. That's where we want to measure to. Okay. Next is the pull rod. The pull rod cannot exceed a maximum height of 69 inches, and that is to ensure that the shorter amongst us are able to reach up and grab the pull rod. It's reasonable to think that the taller amongst us can just grab it at whatever height. So it's just to ensure everybody can reach it. Just check with the tape measure to the bottom of the pull rod. You'll see the pull rod's quite low too. And if it is, those are often ADA accessible, barrier-free units for wheelchair access. So those aren't an issue unless that pull rod's obstructing the eye wash or eye face wash, so watch out for that. Now, combination units, the components have to be capable of operating simultaneously. This is that simultaneous flow that I was hinting at before. When the eye wash or eye face wash disappears when the shower is activated, that's starvation. Okay, the water's taking the path of least resistance to the shower head, and there's not enough left over for the eye wash, and it's just a poor use or inclusion of flow controls in the equipment that's creating a back pressure and ensuring that both are capable of operating simultaneously. So watch out for that. Very sneaky, not frequently found until you get some sort of site survey in place and they're really digging in and making sure they're activating them simultaneously. Make sure you're doing that on site if you're doing your combos and testing them. It also has to be positioned so that both components are lined up. The shower head has to be directly over the eye face wash or eye wash. Well, not directly over, but just in front of it, but aligned so that a user standing in front of the eye wash or eye face wash is underneath the shower. I can't tell you how many facilities, labs, hospitals, chemical, whatever, pick one, dentist office, it doesn't matter, where they have a eye wash or eye face wash, say, on a countertop, and then the shower is way over in the corner of the room. That's not doing anybody any good. These have to be aligned. They're for one single user at the same time. Okay. So obviously a combination. If you had an eye face wash and a shower, it's 23 GPM, 3 for the eye face wash and 20 for the shower. Shut-off valves. Gotta have shut-off valves in place. These lock the valves, the supply line, in the open position and are removed if maintenance is needed on the unit. This is just to prevent any unauthorized shut-off by personnel or employees in the facility. Okay, I suggest lotto devices, and then there you have a whole system in place that requires your employees to replace that. Most people are familiar with lotto, lockout, tagout. Now, employees who may be exposed to hazardous materials shall be instructed in the location and proper use of emergency showers. I call this the duh clause. This is so incredibly important, but obviously teach your employees where the equipment is and teach them how to activate it. Not all emergency equipment is manufactured the same, and some of them get a little weird with it. So ensure they go away from the push paddle, they go away from the pull rod. Now, this is not non-compliant, but people are highly familiar with that system on a broad level. And when we get away from that, make sure they understand exactly how that equipment works in their area. So there's no guessing when they get there. Okay, just quiz them, ask them. There's a crazy test people do. I've seen YouTube videos of it where they're like, grab goggles and they rub like petroleum jelly in the goggles and they put it on the employee and have them guess their way to the eye wash or safety shack. Don't do that. That's bananas. I dislike that video immediately. Where the possibility of freezing conditions exist, the unit shall be protected from freezing or freeze protected equipment shall be installed. Just like you see here on the right, cable traced, heat traced, freeze protected equipment. Okay, if your local weather patterns tell you that you have sub-freezing temperatures in place in your areas, put your freezing condition equipment in place. Okay, whether it's a portable like you see there on the left or a plumbed like you see on the right, this equipment will prevent it from freezing and ensure it's going to work when the users come up to it. That equipment also has to provide a tepid flushing fluid range from 60 degrees Fahrenheit to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 16 degrees Celsius to 38 degrees Celsius for my homies up north. 75% of ophthalmologists say that having tempered water is very important, and cite specifically that it increases the chance that a victim can tolerate a full 15-minute flush. Okay, some of these are outdoors. Some of these are in wide open facilities that are not heated. Some of these are in situations where 15 minutes under even the bare minimum, 60 degree Fahrenheit water is going to be a cold, miserable experience, okay? And it's going to be tough. So supplement your equipment. Either mix hot and cold water with a mixing valve, put in instantaneous heaters, like you see there, the big gray thing. Steam heaters, we have steam heaters that are out there in the market that you can use. There's lots of different options and ways to ensure that that temperature range is met. And that temperature range is doing a couple things. First, it's ensuring you're not going to get hypothermia. You're not going to get cold too fast. Wind chill is a huge factor. There's so many things. Cold shock is possible, cardiac arrest. And consider this too, if you are dealing with corrosives, the insulation on your body is being actively corroded and damaged. To step under 60 degree and under, like cold, cold water, you are just going to bleed heat very quickly. The likelihood of hypothermia or cold shock before or on your way to the hospital is highly likely. So it also keeps the users from removing their clothing, and that is so incredibly important. Contaminants can get trapped in your clothing, under your clothing. It's all going to come off. Now, if the water's too hot, potential burns, right? Or hyperthermia. We heat up too quickly. Heat stroke, confusion, right? They want to know exactly what it is that you're exposed to. You might have to answer questions if you don't have the support that you might have at some facilities. Supervisors, hopefully they're investigating, they're getting the safety data sheets for the emergency responders that are going to be there and stuff, but you want to keep your awareness about you during this experience and so on. So it also, scalding of the eyes and soft tissue starts at 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, skin burns at 120. I can tell you in surveys, the highest temperature of water that I've ever experienced was 138 degrees Fahrenheit coming out of a shower, which was, I won't tell you, but it was awful. I mean, I could feel it through the shower sock. It was so hot, and I can't even imagine a person stepping under that, exposed to chemicals, and have to deal with that. Which brings me to negative reaction with chemicals. Hot water can react incredibly negatively with hot water, so we want to dial that back. Also, Legionella bacteria. Growth thrives between 77 degrees and 113 degrees Fahrenheit in a range that unfortunately overlaps the ANSI range there. So we tell people about 85 degrees, which is kind of the golden temperature. It's not too bad, but ensuring, as long as you're clearing out your dead legs, Legionella should be less of an issue. Okay? Which brings me to another type of equipment. This is supplemental equipment. And unfortunately, the photos that you see there are very real examples of how we find these on a regular basis. Okay? Supplemental equipment are squeeze bottles. Squeeze bottles are great. These are good, but they are only allowed if they are supplementing primary plumbed equipment nearby, something that is capable of 15 minutes of flow. Okay? This equipment, like you see there, you see the Honeywell Isolene. If you were to grab that, that should be immediately adjacent to where you were exposed, and you can squeeze it in your eyes on the way to primary plumbed equipment. Okay? But this is how we find them. They're expired, they're missing. You've got the burn it away option there on the left. The Biltmore wine bottle, that one blew my mind. That was so funny. The one frozen in the middle. Honest, the big gulp idea, it's not even that bad. It's so ridiculous, it's not even that bad if they were actually kind of full. But you want a sealed bottle, okay, clean water, flushing fluid there, and then you got the spoon and knife option there on the end, which is just crazy. I told you earlier there was an exception to that change of level, and that is a single step into a booth or enclosure. As long as we can't make this type of equipment flush with the ground, so a single step is allowed into a booth. So as an exception, that's in the appendix in section B5 of the standard. Also in there, in B5, is requirements for doors. Okay, you can have doors, but it has to meet certain requirements. It has to be non-locking. The door has to open in the direction of the emergency equipment because you want to run through it, not stop and pull. The hazard has to be non-corrosive. So the second you're dealing with corrosives, no doors. Okay. Although I have seen people get away with those dangling flap type doors where you can just fly through it. You're not actually operating a door. And then it has to be push bar or panic bar operated, like you see there in the photo. Poll question number 5, Kristen, please.
All right, so the question is, how much of your emergency equipment meets the ANSI ISEA Z358.1 2014 standard? 75% or more, 50 to 74%, 25% to 49%, 1% to 24%, or 0%? Go ahead and put in your answers.
And based on many surveys, I'll give you a snapshot of what this really looks like.
Okay, and we're going to share this one real quick here. So the answers came to how much of your emergency equipment meets the standards. 57% of the class said 75% or more, 50 to 74%, 22% of you said that, 25 to 49%, 9% of the class said that, 8% chose 1 to 24%, and 5% chose 0%.
I hate that 5% is accurate in some instances. It's just crazy to think that there are facilities out there 100% non-compliant, but it happens, fortunately. Okay, some quick best practices, and then we're moving on to some stuff. But remove your contacts. Don't rub your eyes. Right, this should be a no-duh, but contacts can trap contaminants, and the second the eye wash hits your eye, can push that contact with the contaminants trapped to the back of your eyeball. So get those contacts out. Disrobe completely. You got to be in your birthday suit. Remove your socks and shoes. Okay, it's not a time to be shy in front of your coworkers. We want to get these chemicals off of you and keep you safe. So get disrobed. Provide privacy curtains. With that. Just like you see on the right, give them some privacy. Maybe it's a booth, maybe it's a curtain like you see here, but that privacy can go a long way in ensuring that the concern about modesty isn't going to stop them from taking their first aid seriously. Do not remove PPE before entering the equipment. If your PPE was exposed, say you have goggles on and you've just been sprayed with something nasty, your eyes under the PPE are safe for now, okay? Get into the eye wash or eye face wash and the shower, run it, okay? Let it hit the PPE and then remove it and get your face in there immediately, okay? If you tear your goggles off right away, it could just run down onto more of your face or into your eyes. Step into the equipment with your PPE and disrobe. Be cautious not to contaminate others, okay? If you're assisting somebody else is having an emergency, shout instructions at them, yell and scream at them, do whatever you gotta do, but don't touch them, okay? Ensure the correct type of signage is in place. I'd hate to be running towards a combination unit sign like you see there on the right and find out there's only an eye wash there. That would be upsetting. Ensure that be cautious of proximity. I shouldn't even have to say that, but be cautious to proximity to electrical. I have photos that would just drop your jaw. It happens quite frequently. Make sure those outlets aren't immediately adjacent to the equipment. Locate other first aid equipment nearby. It's a great idea. And then clean your equipment regularly. Ensure that maintenance is being done. Now, I include this. I just told you not to put your hands on somebody, but you probably recognize this clip. The reason I include it is this is technically great technique on part of the Nard dog there. He's got his eyes in his fingers in his eyes. He's really stretching them out and throwing his face in there, and I really like it. But yeah, make sure you're really digging in and rotate your eyes to ensure you get fully cleaned out in there. Now, this is just a quick bragging point. This is Z358.1-2017. This is color coding for hazards at your facilities, ANSI. And it lets us know different coloring for different things in your facility. So red, danger stop. Yellow is a caution, tripping type hazards. Orange is cut, crush, or injure. Green, the color of a particular manufacturer's equipment whose webinar you might be attending, is the location of safety equipment, okay? Ensure that you're properly color coding your equipment. Green is always safe. Green is a universally safe color, and ensure you're color coding correctly. Now that brings me to this. So we have a couple quick tools we're gonna put into your hand. I'm gonna answer some questions and then we're gonna close. But this is our ANSI site survey program. These are the actual stats, okay? What you see there on the right, the pie chart, is based on years and years and years of information of doing site surveys. You know, this year, for instance, we got close to, I think, 450 site surveys with tens and thousands of equipment that we surveyed. This is what compliance looks like, unfortunately, in all of those sites. Almost 80% were performance-related issues, non-compliance issues. The eye wash wasn't working, the eye face wash wasn't working, the shower wasn't working correctly. The other blue piece there is non-compliant other, which is tertiary stuff. The sign was missing, dust cover wasn't in place, stuff like that. And then only 12% compliance, which is upsetting. That is such a low percentage. But what we can do about it is offer you a survey. We're the pros. We've been doing this for just forever. We're going on 74 years of working with emergency equipment, and this program has been in place with for just about 10 years, I think, where we've been doing surveys. We offer a 1 full day of inspection free. We give you an inspection report, an executive summary chart, recommendations on how to fix those issues. We do a full debriefing meeting with you on our findings, and then you have full access to subject matter experts on the Z358.1 standard, technicians, and so on. So if you're interested, www.hawsco.com/survey, fill out the form. This is free again, and it's fully confidential. We're not going to share this information with anybody but you. This program is put in place to put those experts in your hands and ensure that you have access to tools to survey your site and to ensure compliance, because we take it very seriously here at Haws. Which brings me to poll question number 6.
All right, the question is, would you be interested in a free site survey of your existing emergency equipment for ANSI compliance? Just pick yes, have someone contact you, or no, no thank you. All right, just gonna give you a few more seconds for a few more to react to this one.
I might even be the person coming out to do your survey.
All right, closed it up.
We can be best friends. Now, next, Haws services. This is the other piece of the puzzle, okay? Maybe you know what your compliance looks like. Maybe you know you have some issues and you're really looking for answers, okay? Haws services is it. These guys are technical experts to the Z358.1 standard, trained by yours truly and others that really know their stuff. They can do startup and commissioning, verifying proper installation, correct operation, and even maintenance training for your facility and maintenance staff. They will work on Haws equipment, Guardian equipment, Acorn equipment, Bradley, all emergency equipment. Even if you got something weird, like you ordered it on Wish, and it came from, you know, Taiwan, we will work on that. We will get that up to compliance for you. That's what these guys do. They will do annual ANSI inspections. Whoops. Preventative maintenance. They'll do repairs and upgrades, startup and commissioning of new equipment, and warranty service. Okay, these guys really do it all. They'll come on site. They'll help you in every way that they can. They'll give you the tools and they'll fix it. They'll fix it while they're there. So this is a really important service that we offer here. And they can do just about anything. So please, if you're interested, guess what poll question number 7 is?
That question is, would you be interested in learning more about how Haws services can help you achieve ANSI compliance? Just let us know yes or no, and we'll see if we can help you out with that.
Now, Kristen, you got a couple questions lined up for me?
I do here. I've got one from Matthew that says, are there any chemicals that react with water and could make an injury worse?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The other question that's good in here, Justin, from Joseph, is, have I seen booster pumps? Oh, he's seen booster pumps at emergency showers, even though water pressure is at least 40 PSI. Is a booster pump required?
I see. Well, let me answer that first one, and I was supposed to on the second one, so I missed the first one. What was it?
Let's see here. The very first one was, are there chemicals that react with water and can make an injury worse?
Oh yeah, so anything, so sulfuric acid. You'd be surprised how many facilities, from food manufacturing to slaughter facilities to so many different facilities that use sulfuric acid, and it can react highly negatively with water and with hot water. Now, if it's dialed back at a decent temperature, again, about 85 degrees, it's not so bad. It's going to react, but it's not going to be as extreme, okay? So check your safety data sheets on those chemicals, but there's quite a few out there that will react negatively with water. There are even special types of equipment for hazards that react negatively with air, for instance. Now, if you're using a safety shower, there's air and water going at the same time, and you're going to get a reaction. Those are called dive tanks. They're specialized units. You literally, there's like a foam top, and you literally like swan dive into this tank and submerge yourself to rinse it off. But there's special instances out there. Check your safety data sheets. It'll let you know what it reacts with. And then what was the other one?
I have seen booster pumps at emergency showers, even though water pressure is at least 40 PSI. Is a booster pump required?
Oh, I see. Okay, so booster pumps are not required in any way, shape, or form, but they are a great way to supplement your system to ensure compliance. Okay. The number one issue that we see there, though, when we're not getting enough water, is the size of the supply line. 1 1/4 inch supply line is the bare minimum for a combination unit, shower and eye face wash. Okay, 1/2 inch line is the bare minimum for an eye wash or an eye face wash. Oftentimes we are not meeting that, and we are starving the units, unfortunately. So watch out for those supply lines. Booster pump, great idea. Our equipment, just to give you an example, works between 30 to 90 PSI. We use flow controls no matter what. So if you hook up a Haws unit, you're gonna be good to go. Any other ones?
Yeah, there's a good one here. It asks if those sink mounted eye washes are ANSI compliant.
The sink mount, like faucet mounted units. Because there could be two units you're talking about. One is like a deck mounted. I don't think you're talking about those. Those are clearly compliant. They're great units. But if it's a faucet mounted unit, yes. For instance, we have one. We have our 7620. It's called the iPod. Apple's not upset about it, which is super cool. We spell it EYE pod. iPod, and it's a little device, hooks up to the faucet, and you were to activate the hot and cold water and then flip the head of the device, and you have an eye wash on your faucet. This is certified through CSA to meet the Z358.1 standard, in that it activates and it's capable of being activated in under 1 second, and we provide the proper training materials so that the users, the employees, know how to activate it. Sometimes this isn't the case with equipment. There's some funky stuff out there, especially DIY Frankensteins from the maintenance department. I've seen some unusual stuff out there. But yes, they are compliant. And so long as you're not dealing with the types of hazards that would require an eye face wash instead, and certainly not corrosives, right? You need much more. You need a shower. And why don't we take another one?
You want another one?
Yeah, Kristen.
Let's see here. If a foot treadle was provided linked up to paddle for eye wash, does it have to be maintained?
Oh, good question. Yeah, absolutely. So, but if it does fall apart, that as long as the paddle is still functioning correctly and there are no additional issues with that, but the chain fails, for instance, for the foot treadle, I would immediately remove the foot treadle just to ensure there's no confusion when they get there. But if you've trained your employees to expect that foot treadle, that's activation, that's how you want them to activate it, then I really make sure you're on top of ensuring that is well taken care of and it's functioning normally. And then Kristen, let's take one more question and then I'll close.
Okay, how about, are the temperatures the same for just the eye wash? And that was when you were going over the questions about the temperatures for the shower. So
yep. I get asked that a lot. Yes, it doesn't matter if it's just an eye wash, an eye face wash, a safety shower by itself, which is more unusual these days, or a combination unit, that water temperature has to be between 60 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, and that's because even if it's just for the eyes, right? If we're exceeding 100 degrees, the damage starts at 100 degrees. Okay, and it within minutes, you can damage your eyes so much more severely than you might think, even at just 100 degrees Fahrenheit and having your eyes in there. Slowly, it'll do its damage. So no matter what the type is, you got to have it within that range. And there's lots of ways to do that. So, and if you need help with that, reach out to us. We're happy to help. And then with that, everything I didn't get to, I will get it in a Excel spreadsheet and answered and out to you as quick as I can. That's my contact information there on the screen. Again, I've been Justin Dunn, Senior Field Marketing Specialist. Glad to meet you. That's my email. You're welcome to use that. Haws Customer Service is on there. We have the best customer service. I can't brag about them enough. We have an incredible customer service team. They can be reached by the phone number there, toll free, email, or we have a live chat function on the website that you are welcome to use, and they get back to you quick. Or you can visit www.hawsco.com and search for the answers yourself. It is a excellent website. There are specs, drawings, documents you can drag straight to your desktop. images, all the information you need to make the decisions about either your emergency equipment, how to find a rep, all of those things. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for being here. I hope this was incredibly useful to you. We appreciate any feedback you end up giving us in the follow-up survey, and I hope you find the tools useful that we're going to follow up with you here in, again, 24 to 48 answers. Depends how many questions there are that I got to answer. And have a wonderful week. Thank you for being here. Stay safe.